They say sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder. Now, this expression could not be any more true. For me, especially the first week whenever I return to the village, I find myself falling in love again and again with this beautiful, beautiful village we call Karating. Welcome back to the village. For folks who are joining us for the first time, this is a village very close to the city of Kisumu in Kenya. If you are running into our channel for the first time, I'm hoping this is going to be worth your time, and if it is, please subscribe. Now, I want you to pay attention to those two birds. They are called onjenyo in my mother tongue. I don't know what they call them in English, because I'm going to tell you something about them later on before the video ends. But this is our rural village where we love to spend time, and as you can see, I'm walking around looking at all the snacks, natural snacks. They're not necessarily wild, but lots of natural snacks that my mom plants around our compound. And so this morning, I'm just getting ready to start my day, and my real plan is to go help my mom dry corn, or what we call oduma. And I have not done this in a good while. It reminds me of my days many years ago as a kid. That was one of our primary tasks growing up. Our job after sourcing oduma, and I'm just using sourcing as a term that I've just made up because I don't know what the English version of it is. But I think sourcing here would refer to the process of taking the actual corns from the cob itself. So as a kid, we would do all of that, and then our main task was to make sure that we spread the corn out, let them dry, and then unfortunately during the day there would be chickens running around, and then the corn would spread all over, and then before the day ends, each kid would be given a section of the property to make sure that we clean up all the corn that is spread all over the place. So it was quite a bit of work. I have not done this in many years. And so today my plan is to go help my mom do that. She does this with the help of some of our really generous neighbors. But whenever I'm around, I don't mind doing it. So you'll see that in just a few minutes what the process looks like. And for those of you who did not grow up in the village, I might need to give you the context of all of this. That for one, that in the village we typically rely on nature a lot for most of the processes around planting and food. For example, we barely use irrigation, if at all. We don't mechanize as much, and then we don't modify our plants, we just plant them as is. And when it comes to processing, typically we dry our foods using the sun. We wait for the wind to help us clean or do what some people call winnowing. We use animal fertilizers. And so in general, most of what we do around food preparation is highly tied to nature. Some folks have mechanized it, others have not. So I'm simply describing what is about average. In other bigger farms, you might find a lot more mechanization, but not in small farms like the one we have. So like I said, my goal is to help my mom dry corn when the sun still shines, and then the next process probably will be done in a week or so. And so as I do this, I'm reminded of a lot of the cultural knowledge that were passed along by my ancestors. Like what I'm doing right now is something that we were taught, not by taking classes, but we just participated. We were doing what some people would call experiential learning. So much has been taught to us across multiple generations. And a lot of this knowledge has really helped communities survive. Remember, Africa is the oldest continent on Earth. We've been here for millions of years, and we're still here. And part of it thanks to this cultural knowledge that has been passed down. Some of this knowledge has helped us preserve lots of plant species, animal species. It's helped us preserve historical sites. And in many cases, this historical knowledge has been very helpful in keeping us safe. And so I'm going to share with you a few examples of how this worked out for some of us growing up. The things we've learned, the things that I truly hope we can preserve and possibly pass on to the younger folks who are growing up differently, or those who may not have the same opportunities as we did growing up. So remember the two birds that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. In our mother tongue, they are called onjeño. I like I said, I don't know what you call them in English, but as a kid, we used to hunt birds, and mostly for fun. But we were given very clear instruction not to kill these specific birds. And we were told that any kid that kills onjeño would end up having their mom's house burning down because you killed onjeño. So we were often very scared. And thankfully, because of that, the population of this bird is still very much intact. As an adult now, I'm much older, and I remember there are certain bird species that I saw as a kid that I no longer see right now because I suspect they've been wiped out. So some birds like this ones have been preserved thanks to some of those things that we were taught growing up. And then you have this class of birds like owls and hornbills that we were often told to be careful around because of superstition. And so kids were told if you see an owl or a hornbill, you shush them away. So we never killed them, but we were always scared of them. Those birds are still very much present within our community. And so even in terms of hunting, we were always taught to be very selective in the way we hunt. And we were always hunting for fun. And so because of that, we've ended up preserving a lot of wild animals in our neighborhoods. In fact, sometimes my Nigerian friends are surprised how much wild animals we have and just how much we don't care for bushmeat. So the average Kenyan does not care for bushmeat. I know there are few places in Kenya where people eat bushmeat, but it is not the norm. And so some of those cultural practices has really helped us preserve lots of animals that you'll find in East Africa. And so that's with the animals. And then with the plants, I remember very well my grandmother, who now is 96, walking around with me, showing me specific plants that were medicinal. Like one time we went to find medicine to stop my father from vomiting. And she specifically instructed me to just take a portion of it and to make sure I don't pluck the whole plant. And when we were done, we made sure that all the seeds were thrown back out in the wild. And I didn't realize what she was doing at the time, but now as an adult, I know that was one way of preserving these medicinal plants. And so over time, through spending time with my grandmother and spending time around my peers, I actually learned quite a few traditional medicine, like medicine for stopping bleeding. I know medicine for stomach upsets. I know medicine for drying wounds. I know how to use cobwebs to remove what we call, quote unquote, a bad thing. And a bad thing, I think, is a term used to refer to some kind of an infection. But if you know what that is, you might help us with an explanation in the comment section. So growing up, we learned quite a few traditional medicine like that are still preserved in our minds. In fact, I would even claim I know how to deflate swollen lymph nodes, especially lymph nodes around the groin area. Something that in Spanish we would call awang mach. We know how to treat that using a hot knife and a cooking stick. Now this is not graphic, so I may not explain everything, but it's not graphic. Lots of these things are still etched in our minds, having been taught by those who knew a lot more. And then we have this class of quote unquote love potions that we were taught. I remember we were told that there was this particular fly, we would call it tikjodongo. My guess is that it's called a dragonfly, but I could be wrong on it. We're supposed to prepare a certain way, and then we're supposed to use it to greet people in social settings. And the myth was, if we used it, then the attitude girls would have towards us would drastically change, and it would make it very easy for us to talk to them. Unfortunately for us, these love potions, I don't think we got statistically significant results. And so maybe we didn't put the right mix, or the girl just had an antidote to it. But yeah, this particular group of medicine, quote unquote medicine, did not work out as well as we thought. And others were just about just pure safety. Like we were taught that if you notice a leopard walking next to you at night, you are not supposed to panic, just keep walking, because the leopard was simply escorting you. And really what they meant was that typically when you panic, you invite problems with animals. And so lessons like that actually kept us safe, because in karating many years ago, and I'm talking 40 years plus, we used to have quite a few wild animals. And now, not so much so because there's so much human settlements all over. But we used to have hyenas, leopards, and all kinds of dangerous animals. So we were given these lessons to keep us safe, because it was not unusual for a young kid to be walking on a footpath to notice a leopard walking right next to them in the bush. And so if the kid didn't panic, for the most part, they would be just fine. Or even things such as knowing to stay away from animals with babies, or learning not to walk on a hippo path, because then you could find yourself between the water and the hippo, which is absolutely dangerous. And then, of course, things such as if you swept the floor at night, we were taught not to open the door to throw out all that dirt. I don't remember what they said, but we knew that was dangerous. And now as an adult, I realized it was just a matter of just making sure you don't open the door that could invite uninvited guests into your house. And so over the years, we've been taught all kinds of things, including, oh, by the way, there was this one about not singing at night, thinking that birds would take your voice. And so I wonder how much of this native knowledge is out there that folks have that we could pass on to younger folks, maybe through TikTok, YouTube, and all that. And so if you have any knowledge we need to preserve, I'd love to hear about your experience, especially for folks who grew up in the village. Well, again, I hope that was useful for you. If it was, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next. Thank you.